So after the Season 5 update, there seems to be two main long-range rifles people are trying to decide between, the GRAU and the UGM-8, and in this video we're going to be going over the stats for both of these weapons to let you know which one is exactly the best weapon to be using for long range inside Warzone. If you do enjoy this style of content, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k, and we will be making similar content when Warzone 2 releases as well. Also click that link and subscribe to our second channel. Let's get straight into this. First of all, I want to show you both of the builds that we tested when it comes to both of these guns. These are the meta builds as well for both weapons, so definitely take note of this if you want to figure out what is the best rifles. First of all, we have the UGM-8, which is an LMG from the Vanguard category of weapons, and this is the main meta build. You actually want to use the MX silencer for the sound suppression and recoil control, the Bernard barrel, which is the best for recoil control, the 3 to 6 times optic. You can use the G16 as well. The Mercier stock is the best at controlling recoil, tight grip once again to control recoil. Now when it comes to Perk 2, the best one would be on hand for a faster ADS time. Keep in mind we did actually use the sim.gg website to get the ADS time values for this build, so even though we haven't unlocked it, we did get the correct stats. Then we do use the hatch grip, which is the best at controlling recoil at the moment. The 75 round mags, because I do want to make this gun feel more like an assault rifle, less like an LMG. The 125 round Sakura mags give you the same TTK numbers as this gun, and it also helps with the recoil just as much as well. So the mags are the same, it's just a different capacity, but you do get a little bit better movement with the 75 round British mags. And then we've got lengthen for the bullet velocity and the strife angle grip, which is the best at controlling horizontal recoil. The next gun is of course the GRAU, which got a great buff with the recent update, and it's a very popular weapon right now, of course, because it's been so popular since the beginning of Warzone. But the build that you do want to be using is the mono suppressor for the sound suppression and the damage range, the Archangel barrel for the best possible bullet velocity and control, the VLK optic. Now obviously you can remove this optic, use the tac laser instead, use the iron sights on this weapon, but we did do the testing with the optic because we do have an optic on the Vanguard UGM-8 as well. The 60 round mags because it is the best mags available. Then the Commando foregrip for the recoil stabilization and aiming stability. So the first thing I actually want to show you is the TTK numbers as well as the damage profiles for both of these weapons. This is a very important factor when deciding on which weapon you actually want to choose between the two, other than recoil as well, so we'll get onto that later on in this video. But when it comes to the damage numbers in TTK, we've got the UGM-8 on the left in orange, we've got the GRAU on the right in green, and down the middle we've actually got the shot location multiplier that we use to calculate these numbers. Now obviously if you do change the shot location multipliers, then you will get different values, but this is an average that we've actually taken from the Cold War multiplayer to get a good idea of what it looks like to actually land your shots in game. So when it comes to the UGM-8, the TTKs are actually a little bit quicker when it comes to close range and long range, because the rate of fire itself is definitely much quicker. Now if you look at the damage profiles, which are at the bottom of the screen, you can actually see they're very similar. So the headshot damage is the same, the upper chest is 24 on the GRAU but 23 on the UGM-8. The neck multiplier is a little bit better on the UGM-8, but that is because it is an LMG. But other than that, the consistency and TTK of both of these weapons is actually very good. And also another thing I do want to point out is that the actual damage drop-off range, so that is the meter distance, is pretty much exactly the same for both of these guns, so keep that in mind. They're going to drop off right around the same distance. Now TTKs of course went to the UGM-8 slightly, however let's move on into movement stats. Now movement stats for rifles isn't as important as it would be for an SMG for example, but it's still something you do want to consider, because if it does slow you down way too much, it's probably not something that's going to be viable or something that is going to be fun to use, especially if you cannot get that movement correct or you can't slide cancel with this gun, then it's going to make it quite upsetting to use. So let's get on into the stats. So when it comes to ADS, the GRAU definitely wins here, because the ADS on the UGM-8 is 465 milliseconds, and then the ADS on the GRAU is 379 milliseconds. Now, tactical sprinting speed is pretty much exactly the same, which is actually very surprising to me because the UGM-8 is of course an LMG, but when it comes to actually tactical sprinting around the map, you actually get a very similar sprint speed, so that is something that is very interesting to see. When it comes to the ADS strafing speed, so you're not firing, but you're aim down sights and strafing, the GRAU is slower than the UGM-8, which is actually surprising once again because the UGM-8 is an LMG. However, we do know vanguard weapons move faster than modern warfare and Cold War guns, so that's something that we definitely know from previous stat videos. And then when it comes to the tactical sprint to fire, as you can see, the GRAU is a little bit quicker as well. So when it comes to getting your aim down from maybe sprinting, then your GRAU is definitely going to come down a lot quicker, and it's going to ADS a lot quicker, which is something that you should expect from an assault rifle. When it comes to strafing and sprinting, the UGM-8 is actually good enough or even better than the GRAU in some cases. When it comes to movement stats, that's going to need to go to the GRAU. More often than not, in most cases, it's going to come out on top over the UGM-8, other than strafing speeds, which isn't super important at long range. Now, moving on into the handling stats, we now have mag capacity, reload times, damage per mags, and bullet velocity. Now, damage per mag is explained at the bottom on the screen if you do want to give a quick read through that. But what we're going to do is discuss the mag capacity. Now, of course, you can get a larger mag capacity than 75 rounds on the UGM-8, but as we discussed before, this will slow you down a lot more. So you can get 125 round mags, and this will also increase your damage per mag as well. But like I said, if you do want a balanced weapon, then the 75 rounds are the better way to go. Regardless though, they still have a bigger capacity than the GRAU. Reload time is a lot slower than the UGM-8 because it is an LMG, so the reload time is double that of the GRAU, so just keep that in mind when you are using these weapons. When it comes to damage per mag, the UGM-8 still comes out on top because it does have a larger capacity. Now, the damage was a little bit less, but overall, because of that capacity of the weapon, it's still going to allow you to maybe get one more extra kill. Now, if you do miss a lot of shots, I'd probably say the UGM-8 is a slightly better weapon because the damage per mag is a lot higher, so it gives you more of a capability to miss shots but still get those kills. Now, when it comes to bullet velocity, the GRAU surpasses the UGM-8 in flying colors here. I do think that a 400 millisecond bullet velocity increase is definitely significant enough to make the gun feel a little bit better, especially at those longer distances, and feel like you're connecting your shots. So obviously at distance, the GRAU is going to feel a bit better. Maybe that's why the reason it's a little bit more popular. Handling stats, I'm going to call a tie because it's going to be tough to call that one. It's going to come down to personal preference. Let's move on into recoil now, because recoil is a huge factor when it comes to long range rifles, especially inside Warzone. And as you can see here, we've got both of the recoil patterns at an 18-meter distance. And what you can see is the UGM-8 on the left, the GRAU on the right. And as you can tell, this is the reason why both of these guns are so popular in the Season 5 update right now, because both of these guns have super low recoil. Now, the GRAU does have a lot more vertical recoil than the UGM-8, and the UGM-8 has a lot more horizontal recoil than the GRAU. Now, if you pull down your analog stick on the GRAU, you will get a really good recoil pattern still, so that's something you do want to keep in mind because it is still a very easy gun to manage. And the UGM-8 doesn't involve a lot of doing anything with the recoil. You can pull down on your stick a little bit still, but it's going to bounce side to side regardless, and that's why we use the strife angled grip on the UGM-8. However, both of these guns are super low recoil, and it's going to come down to personal preference. If you don't like pulling down on your stick, choose the UGM-8. If you don't mind, choose the GRAU. But both of these guns are super accurate regardless, so it's going to be hard to call this one as well. Now, the final thing I want to quickly show you here is actually the Warzone ranked website. And that is going to show you where these two guns are ranked against each other and what gun more people are actually choosing inside Warzone at the moment. Now, more people are choosing the GRAU, and I would agree with this, and the reason why is because the GRAU itself is a little bit quicker when it comes to movement. Now, the TTK isn't quite as fast as the UGM-8. However, if you do want the fastest possible TTK between these two guns, then the UGM-8 is the way to go. However, regardless of that, I do still think the GRAU, in my opinion, is going to be the best choice. And that is because not only nostalgia plays a factor because we all love the GRAU, but like I said, is a more versatile weapon overall. So there we have it. We've broke down which is the best of the long range rifles inside Warzone Season 5. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k. Click that link and subscribe to our second channel. Thank you very much for watching.